Hello and welcome to the latest video in our short series of videos about the Bird logical data model. Here we show concise data creation using an application. So we'll see that right now. The application in question is something called the Eclipse Modeling Framework. Here what we do is it's a very mature open source framework. This one is more for showing the advantages of the LDM. Most likely in production or in day-to-day you'd use the SQL version and object relational mapping. But it's very useful for showing the concise data construction. And what we do here is we take the Xcore files that we showed in the last video, exported when we created data models in the open source application, and from these Xcore it's very easy to create something called eCore. Now when we do this it looks a bit like SQL Developer. We've got the files for each, we've got something here for each entity, instrument. Here you've got a bit of annotation, and then you've got the fields and also the relationships. But most importantly, what we can do here is from the instrument entity of the LDM, we can say create a dynamic instance. And here it's created this thing called instrument XMI, it's actually an XML file. And we see for instrument, which is the root of our instrument hierarchy, we set a few fields: reference date, reporting agent, etc. and some relationships, just the ones related to the root hierarchy. And then, because we have subtypes, and there's subtypes in an arc, we can do new child, and what we do is we need to choose a product. So one of the many subtypes of instrument, and we can do OTC CDS, other advanced, OTC swap, and we're going to choose, I think, this one, loan excluding repurchase agreement. And we'll see, if we try to choose a second one, we can't. What happens is we do new child, it says you've made your choice, you can no longer choose OTC option or OTC swap, etc. You don't have the ability to add a second one, which is great in this case. And then we just have to set a smaller set of fields for loans. So we don't have to consider at all what fields were required for OTC swaps, other derivatives, etc. Now this was a deep hierarchy, so actually we've got to choose something else here called loan type. We've got all these other things. It could be credit card debt, deposits, financial lease, etc. We're going to choose other loan. Again, if we try to choose another one, it says no, you've made your choice. You still get to choose if it's syndicated or non-syndicated, and that's because that was a disjoint subtype. You get two choices to be made, and we'll make it syndicated. But we see, because we chose other loan, we have to set these few things, so revolving loan, indicator, but we don't care about the other things that were specific to credit card debt or overnight deposits, those sorts of things. So this is a very concise way to create information about other loan products. We should be complete, and we'll also choose that this is an instrument that comes from a financial contract as opposed to a credit facility. So there's very few fields to set up here, but if you're using a data model with a lot more columns and tables, and we weren't sure which ones were for other loans, this would be a much more complex and less concise operation. Now let's think of another hierarchy that we need to, this is just one hierarchy, we'll also do for other loans, we need to populate a few hierarchies. So the other one, we need an instrument role. We looked at that in examples before. Here's instrument role. We'll have a quick look. What we'll do is we'll say show eClass, and it can show us the hierarchy, the different instrument roles. What we want is financial asset. Instrument was one of the subtypes. There were others. So financial asset instrument. So let's find that. Financial asset instrument. Here's some of the fields and relationships, but we'll do create dynamic instance. Let's first save our instrument, and also we should always give our instrument a unique ID. Let's give it an instrument ID loan1 and save it. We'll do that here. So loan1. Okay, let's populate a financial asset instrument. We've got a few things to populate here. Not a great number. Some are automatically populated. We are going to link that role to our instrument. So we just tell it where the instrument is. Say it's a resource instrument. And then we'll find here we have a drop down. We say instrument acts as instrument role for loan 1. Let's save that. Now this had subtypes we saw before. And again it had multiple, so it had disjoint subtyping, so there were a lot of choices to make. We only showed 2 of the disjoint subtypes before. Here we see a lot more. Let's say we get to choose if it's due, past due or not past due. So let's choose past due. Because we chose past due, we have to say the past due amount of days. If we made a different choice, let me do Control Z to go back, and we did the choice of not past due, we wouldn't have to say the past due days. We're only putting in data when we need it, based on our choices, based on the classification of what we're doing. Now we'll see if we do another new child. We no longer choose from past due, but we have to choose our approach to CRR article 1, 2, 3. I'm going to choose this one, a few fields to do new child again. We've made our choice for that. Let's take it not interest only, and then let's say fixed interest versus non-fixed interest, and renegotiated, and balance sheet recognized financial instrument. And we'll see there, because it's balance sheet recognized financial instrument, we have other fields to do. So carrying amount, for example, is on here. So this is an example where we've shown how, for a very precise thing that we want to represent, we only have to set a very small number of fields which are precise to our exact choice of what we're trying to model, what we're trying to represent, and it makes it very clear, the logical data model, which columns we need. And that's something we don't find in a lot of other models where we have less tables, but the tables are very wide, they have less columns, and it's not very clear to understand which columns are needed for exactly which products, or for not even just products, but different properties of what we're modelling, what we're trying to show, mean that we have different columns to populate. So this is a good example of how our precise data model allows us to, the precise design of our data model gives us the ability to do very concise data and create very concise data. So we could also here do some a party row, and then an assignment between the loan and the, well, let's say we could do we could create a loan debtor assignment, etc. And show a full example of this. We don't actually need all the hierarchies for another loan, we need probably 5 or 6. So I hope you found that interesting. Thank you for watching.